After this week, American politics will never be the same. In the last 48 hours, President Donald Trump pulled off something that no president in the modern era has ever done. He went 37-0 in Republican primaries in a single night. Not 37-1 or 37-2, 37-0. Perfect, flawless, total. And the shockwaves are still reverberating across the D.C. establishment right now as we speak. Stick them to the very end of this video because we're about to find out what happened this week is not just a story about primary results. It's a story about how one man single-handedly dismantled a century-old political machine, rebuilt it from the ground up in his own image, and is now putting the finishing touches on the most complete political transformation in American history. You're not going to want to miss this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another absolutely magnificent day in the American Golden Age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat as you continue rewriting history in ways that no one, not even the experts, could have possibly predicted, it's all about you. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, every week, I take patriots like you on a walk where we slow down, step away from the noise, and think clearly about what's really happening in our world and what your family can do about it. It's called Turley Walks, and it's one of the most popular things we do inside the Courageous Patriots Club. Right now, you can get a free preview episode, no commitment required. Scan the QR code on the screen and start your free Turley Walks preview today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. 37-0. It's simply unprecedented. A single-day record unlike anything we've seen in modern American politics. Every single candidate Donald Trump endorsed in Republican primaries across Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Idaho, Pennsylvania, they all won. 37-0, not a single loss. But that number alone does not capture what actually happened in this week's primaries. What happened on Tuesday was the final decisive proof of something much bigger, something frankly historic, something that once you understand it fully will genuinely change how you see this presidency and this moment in American history. Without question, the two biggest scalps of the night were Thomas Massie in Kentucky and Brad Raffensperger in Georgia. Let's start with Massie. Representative Tom Massie has held Kentucky's 4th congressional district since 2012. He usually won his district by 30 points. He was entrenched. He was considered by libertarians across the nation as untouchable. In fact, a number of commentators argued over the last several months that Trump's attempt to get rid of Massie was totally and foolishly futile. Massie had unassailable support in Kentucky 4, and Trump was blatantly kidding himself thinking he could get rid of Massie. And lo and behold, Trump endorsed a challenger against him, a newcomer, a former Navy SEAL named Ed Gallrein, who had virtually no name recognition before Trump's endorsement. More than $33 million flooded into that race, making it the most expensive House primary in American history. The vast majority of Massie's money reportedly came from outside Kentucky. Both sides dug in. This was going to be the ultimate face-off between the libertarian wing of the MAGA movement and the founder of the MAGA movement itself. And the result? Massie got crushed. Gallrein won by 10 points. Then there's the ultra-repulsive Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State. This is the man who became a liberal media darling in 2020 for defending and protecting the election chaos and fiasco in Fulton County. He's a Republican, but he is as anti-Trump, never Trump as they come. And he promised to continue his anti-Trump crusade as governor of Georgia, except for the fact that the voters told him to go crawl back under the rock he came out of. Georgia Republican voters buried him decisively, completely, and publicly repudiated. The one and only Scott Jennings, CNN's own senior political commentator, said it best on live television after the results came in.
What's the old song? You don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, you don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Trump in a Republican primary. And that's what Thomas Massie has done by becoming his chief antagonist in the U.S. House. And this became really a referendum on, is Thomas Massie on the team or not? And Trump said he wasn't, and the voters followed.
Now, Scott's absolutely right. What Kentucky 4 came down to was, bottom line, Trump's vision of MAGA versus Massie's vision. And the two collided. And Trump basically said, hey, Kentucky 4, if you want my vision enacted, you got to get rid of this guy right now. And the voters followed suit overwhelmingly. But I don't want you to miss the buried lead in what Scott Jennings just said there. He basically just compared Donald Trump to Superman. Did you hear it? Donald Trump is the Superman of Republican politics. That's how total, how undeniable, how overwhelming Trump's grip on this party has become. And even a CNN panel, albeit with Scott Jennings saying it, is indeed admitting that, which is pretty astonishing given how America's divide is being fueled by the legacy media. I'm sure you're all fully aware of how selective coverage and bias framing shape how people see the news before they ever get a full picture. What's presented as neutral reporting often steers perception instead of surfacing all the facts. Millions are realizing that news is broken, and luckily there's a solution that helps you see what's being emphasized, ignored, or spun, and that's Ground News. Ground News pulls headlines from over 50,000 news sources and makes it easier to understand what's actually happening. You can see the political bias of each outlet, insights like reliability and outlet ownership, and how coverage breaks down across the spectrum. That's why over 1 million people have downloaded Ground News. Check it out for yourself at ground.news/Steve. My favorite feature is the blind spot feed. It shows you which stories are blowing up on one side of the aisle but barely mentioned on the other. It's the clearest way to see media bias in action. So here is it's an example of a story barely getting any traction on the left. It's a story about a Canadian American who helped run a network moving migrants from Canada into New York, earning roughly $1,000 per illegal migrant. The operation was linked to the deaths of 9 people, including 2 children, according to court filings. Of course, the media is ignoring this because it shatters their open borders narrative. Now, the right has their blind spots as well, but now you'll know. With every story, Ground News shows you the entire spectrum of who's reporting from left, right, and center, how reliable each source is, and who owns each outlet. It's everything the corporate press doesn't want you to see. And right now you can get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to all the features I personally use for about $5 per month. Just visit ground.news/Steve, click the link in the description, or scan the QR code. That's ground.news/Steve. What we have to understand is that what Donald Trump has done is not just unusual in American politics. It is genuinely unprecedented in American political history. No president, not Ronald Reagan, not FDR, not Abraham Lincoln, has ever remade his own party so completely, so rapidly, and so permanently as Donald Trump has remade the Republican Party. Reagan brought a new coalition to the GOP. Yes, for sure, particularly the Christian coalition, evangelicals. They, up to that point, had been voting Democrat. But the donor class and the establishment remained. The neoconservatives remained. The old guard remained. The Bush machine ended up taking over. Trump didn't leave the old guard in place. He's liquidating it, race by race, state by state, one endorsement at a time. Think about what 37-0 actually means in historical context. You see, presidential endorsements in primaries used to be very rare, even controversial. Presidents were supposed to stay above the fray of party primaries out of respect for the process, out of political caution, out of the unwritten rules of how Washington worked. Trump obliterated that norm starting in 2018. He obliterated again in 2020. He obliterated again in 2022 and 24 and 26 because he understands something that every political consultant in Washington refuses to understand. The rules of the old game no longer apply. The old game is over. There is a new game now. And in this new game, it's the people, not the donors, not the consultants, not the editorial boards. It is the people who are the final authority. And the people keep choosing Trump every time without fail. And this is because what's happening in Republican primaries is actually a symptom of something much larger. A civilizational shift in American politics that's only now coming into full view. For 40 years, from roughly 1984 to 2024, American politics operated inside a framework that was set by the political and cultural establishment. The framework said both parties compete for the center. Both parties defer to the expert class. Both parties respect the permanent government, the bureaucracy, the administrative state, the intelligence agencies, the media. And both parties accept at some level that the donor class ultimately gets what it pays for. That was the old framework. MAGA didn't reform that framework. MAGA didn't update it. MAGA burned it down. And here's why that matters on a level that goes beyond politics. For the first time in modern American history, a political movement is being built from the bottom up rather than from the top down. The people at the top of the Republican Party are no longer the people who fund it or built its infrastructure. The people at the top are the people who command the loyalty of voters. And that person above all is Donald J. Trump. Remember, Donald J. Trump, we talked about this yesterday, is basically a third-party candidate who won a major party nomination. He had nothing going for him in traditional politics terms, right? He did not have the Republican apparatus behind him. He didn't have the donor class behind him. He didn't have the advisor class behind him. He had none of the top-down structures of political order behind him. He came from the bottom up. The people, a new movement, a mass MAGA movement, overwhelmed the Republican Party and put Donald Trump in charge. This is a genuinely new thing in American public political life. And 37-0 is its latest proof of concept. Trump has flipped working class voters who had voted Democrat for generations. He rebuilt the GOP's coalition around a fundamentally new demographic base, less college educated, more ethnically diverse, more working class, and more genuinely populist than anything the Republican Party had seen since before the New Deal. He moved the party on trade, on immigration, on foreign policy, on Wall Street, on pharmaceutical companies, on the administrative state, all in ways that the old GOP donor class despised. And he won. And he kept winning. And he just won 37-0 on Tuesday night. The American Golden Age is not an accident. It is the product of a political revolution that has been building since 2015 and is now 11 years later at its absolute zenith. The people who told you it was a fluke were wrong. The people who told you it would fade away were wrong. The people who told you the establishment would reassert itself were catastrophically wrong. What you're witnessing right now is what it looks like when a people, a true national people, take their government back. Welcome to Trump's America. Welcome to the Golden Age. And thank you for making it happen. Before you go, let me say this. Patriots around the country are winning right now, but you won't see it on the evening news. Every week, I put together the real story of the victories, the momentum, and the proof that the MAGA movement is not slowing down. Scan the QR code to join our newsletter so your weekend starts with the truth, not their narrative.